Welcome to the show. I am Tom Sense. We have a massive hour lined up, from the permanent bureaucracy panicking over White House renovations to City Hall careerists fighting basic election security. Remember, you can put a question to me at any point in the broadcast, right in the YouTube chat, and I will take it right here in the middle of the news. Ask something real that is worth answering, and we will get into it. Let us get straight to the stories. The legal challengers taking the Trump administration to the Supreme Court think they just found their ultimate weapon. Former national security officials are suddenly leaking that, over a decade ago, a hardened nuclear-proof bunker was built deep beneath the White House complex. The anti-renovation crowd claims this totally destroys the case for the new Ballroom project. In emergency filings, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller and Army Secretary Dan Driscoll argued that building a modern, fortified facility is an urgent national security imperative to protect against modern drone and missile threats. The critics ran to a federal appeals court, won an injunction demanding congressional approval, and are now insisting the White House is manufacturing a security excuse just to build a party room. White House attorneys are standing firm on executive authority. Think about the standard these people are setting with a completely straight face. They honestly believe that because an underground bunker was built years ago, the commander-in-chief is never allowed to upgrade surface facilities against modern threats without begging 535 career politicians for permission first. If these people were in charge of home security, they would refuse to fix a broken front door because the house already has a storm cellar in the backyard. Modern threats evolve, but Washington bureaucrats think defense planning ended over a decade ago. The administration is asking the Supreme Court to clear out the red tape and let the executive branch protect the White House properly. It turns out the only real bunker mentality here belongs to the lawyers trying to freeze the White House in amber. The city of Columbus, Ohio, has decided to join a multi-jurisdiction lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security because they are utterly terrified of basic election security. Under a directive issued by Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, municipal governments risk losing 20% of their counterterrorism grants if they refuse to implement common-sense safeguards. We are talking about requiring documentary proof of citizenship to vote, broader audits, and hand-marked paper ballots. For Columbus alone, that is over $700,000 in federal funds on the line. Municipal leaders are crying foul, claiming the executive branch is bypassing stalled legislation like the SAVE Act and weaponizing public safety money to push unvetted rules. The Department of Homeland Security defended the rule right back, pointing out the obvious truth that protecting critical election infrastructure from foreign interference is a core Homeland Security mission. Consider the standard City Hall is announcing here with a completely straight face. They are taking federal money, specifically meant to protect American citizens from outside threats, but they claim that checking whether a voter is actually an American citizen is an outrageous violation of their rights. If proving citizenship before casting a ballot is an unfair burden, then showing a boarding pass at an airport must be a human rights violation. The Department of Homeland Security is simply saying that if you want federal security dollars, you should probably secure the most important thing in your city. Columbus would rather pay lawyers to protect ballot loopholes than spend 5 minutes verifying who is actually voting. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Hawaii right now as Tropical Storm Moke tracks directly toward the islands. This comes at a terrible time, as the state is still actively recovering from the heavy damage left behind by Hurricane Lala. The National Weather Service and emergency management agencies have issued tropical storm watches and flash flood alerts across the region as the outer rain bands begin to hit. Hawaii state officials are urging residents to secure their property immediately and put emergency kits together. The major danger here is that the ground is already completely saturated from the previous hurricane, which creates a massive risk of landslides, flash floods, and infrastructure failures. Utility crews and disaster relief workers from both federal and state agencies are prepositioning heavy equipment, emergency supplies, and repair resources to tackle the anticipated power outages and major road closures. Local authorities emphasize that even though Moke is technically weaker than the hurricane that hit earlier, having back-to-back tropical systems puts an immense strain on local emergency response systems. Saturated hillsides do not care about the official wind category of a storm, and a secondary deluge can easily trigger catastrophic mudslides on already weakened terrain. Crews on the ground are working around the clock to clear drainage pathways and reinforce critical transport corridors before the worst of the rain arrives. The priority right now must remain squarely on public safety, rapid response readiness, and protecting vulnerable communities from further devastation. The media is working overtime, trying to blow up an internal policy discussion into a full-scale administration civil war. The head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, made a public appearance where he defended the standard measles, mumps, and rubella shot, stating clearly that it is safe and not a lethal vaccine. This comes after President Donald Trump raised questions about childhood vaccine safety and proposed taking a closer look at traditional childhood vaccination schedules. Naturally, the corporate press immediately declared that Dr. Oz is in open rebellion against the White House. Medical organizations and pediatrician groups rushed out statements praising the clarification and demanding completely uniform federal messaging to prevent any drop in childhood immunization rates. Here's the plain reality that every viewer can see and the press keeps carefully stepping around. The media spent years complaining that health agencies were full of yes men who rubber stamp whatever the top boss says. But the second an administration official gives an independent medical opinion, the same reporters declare it a catastrophic crisis. In a normal country with an accountable government, having top officials discuss the safety of federal schedules is called having a functioning administration. Dr. Oz gave his professional view. The president asked tough questions about long-term schedules, and the public gets to hear the conversation. The establishment hates it because they believe public health policy should be handed down in secret from unelected bureaucrats who never have to answer a single question. The progressive wing of the Democratic Party is having a complete public meltdown, and this time their target is their own House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Reports surfaced that Jeffries held a private sit-down with former senior presidential advisor Jared Kushner. The moment details of this high-profile back-channel talk leaked, the left-wing caucus erupted into chaos. Several House lawmakers rushed to the cameras to publicly question the purpose of the meeting, demanding total transparency and attacking Kushner over his business dealings and continued influence. A spokesman for Jeffries tried to put out the fire by explaining that the meeting was just routine outreach across the political spectrum as Congress gears up for major legislative battles and the midterms. But the far-left activists are furious, claiming that speaking to a key Trump figure sends a terrible signal to their base. Look at the position these Democrats are taking, and carry it one step further. They literally believe their party leadership should be legally forbidden from making eye contact with anyone who ever worked in the Trump administration. If talking to someone from the other party is considered treason by progressive Democrats, they might as well move their congressional desks into soundproof booths and vote by text message. Jared Kushner negotiated peace deals in the Middle East, but House Democrats act like sitting in the same room with him is a contagion. Hakeem Jeffries finally tried doing 5 minutes of basic political outreach, and his own caucus treated him like an enemy combatant. The Pentagon made a decisive move by firing top editorial leadership at Stars and Stripes, and the press corps is in full hysterics. The Department of Defense dismissed editor-in-chief Eric Slavin, along with the paper's publisher and a veteran reporter, citing insubordination. The firings went down after Slavin gave an interview drawing a public line in the sand, declaring that any hypothetical censorship from the government would be an absolute red line. For decades, Stars and Stripes has operated as a state-funded military newspaper with congressionally mandated editorial independence to inform the troops. Immediately after the dismissals, journalism advocacy groups, press freedom outfits, and left-leaning lawmakers started screaming that this is an unprecedented assault on the free press. The Pentagon declined to get bogged down in public commentary, sticking strictly to the official charge of insubordination, while press groups demanded immediate congressional inquiries. Consider the standard these editors and their media defenders are pushing with a completely straight face. They think an employee who takes taxpayer funding directly from the Department of Defense is entitled to publicly dare their employer to challenge them, and then act shocked when their employment gets terminated. In the real world, if you work for an organization and publicly announce terms and ultimatums to your own bosses in the press, you get your building badge revoked by lunchtime. Military readiness requires clear command authority, not taxpayer-funded editors staging public resistance campaigns from inside the building. That is the show for this hour. Keep your eyes open, stay sharp, and I will see you right back here next time.